Okay, so good morning, everyone, and it's good to see everyone for Torah study today. Our portion this week is VaYishlach, and it is on page 198 in our Eitz Chaim, chapter 32 of Genesis, beginning with verse 4. And I wanted to, I'll get to the bracha in a moment, just to say that, just one second, somebody else is coming in. Okay, so so we're at VaYishlach, and I want to start at the beginning of the portion and get to the dream of the wrestling that Jacob does with the angel, and try to understand what that's all about. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Again, 198 in the Eitz Chaim, starting at the beginning of the portion, VaYishlach, 32 of Genesis, beginning with verse 4. So we left off last week's portion, Jacob and his two wives, their two concubines, his 13 children, his 12 children. Benjamin isn't born yet, but Dinah has been born, the girl. So they all are on their way back to the land of Canaan. So Jacob's going home, his wife's concubines' children, he's bringing along with him. Okay, and he's now we understand the context. So what does Jacob do in preparation for entering the land of Israel? Well, first, we're also told that he meets angels. That's how last week's portion ended, that he met angels. And I think it's important to look at that before we get into, how chapter 32 started, which is the very end of Vayetze. So keep your finger here on 198, turn back to page 187, the end of Vayetze, to then lead us into the story. So this is the start of chapter 32. Vayashkem Lavan baboker. Lavan got up in the morning. Vayenashek levanav velivnotav. Vayevarech ethem. Vayelech vayashov Lavan limakomo. So he got up early in the morning. He kissed his sons and daughters, or his family, and blessed them. Went and returned. Lavan went and returned to his place. That is, he went back home. 2, Vayaakov halach ledarko, vayifkeuvo malachei Elohim. And Jacob went on his way, and angels of God encountered him. 3, Vayomer Yaakov, Ka'asher Ra'am, Machane Elohim Zeh, Vayikra Shem HaMakom Hahu Machanaim. So Jacob said, when he saw them, that is the angels of God, this is the camp of God, and he called the name of the place he called that place by the name Machanaim, which is a pair of camps. Machanaim, the ayim ending is to show a pair. So one eye is an ayin, two eyes are einayim. One ear is an ozen, two ears are oznayim. So you get the structure of the word. A bicycle is ofanayim, a pair of wheels. Glasses are mishkafayim, two lenses. Okay, so machanayim. So he understands that that's a camp of God, and because he saw two angels there, he calls it machanayim. Okay, so we think the story's over, but what is this encounter that he has with the angels? We don't know. But it's important to keep this in mind because perhaps the encounter that Jacob has at night might be with one of these angels. We don't know. So let's keep this in mind because these three verses, the start of chapter 32, kind of exist in a vacuum. It kind of ends the story, but then we don't remember it anymore. And the next portion starts on verse 4. Now, it is a new topic, but it's still the same chapter. Okay, so now we're on 198. VaYishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav el Esav achiv artza seir sedei Edom. Jacob sent. Now, here's the interesting thing. All right, this is verse 4. Verse 3 and 2, we're told, right, the end of Vayetze, we're told angels of God, malachim, or malachei Elohim, right? It was malachei Elohim, yes. So that's, and here are malachim, but these are translated as messengers. But wait a second, did Jacob send those angels that he just encountered? Did he send them ahead? Or, so Jacob sent malachim before him. Which malachim? Are we translating malachim as human messengers? But you see, in rabbinic and modern Hebrew, a messenger is a shaliach, from the same word as VaYishlach, to send. So the rabbinic Hebrew uses the term shaliach a lot. Like someone can designate someone to be their messenger, to sign a document for them, to take something for them. So shaliach is a common rabbinic word. So the question here is, and it's confusing, perhaps it's meant to be confusing. Who are these malachim that Jacob is sending before him to Esau, his brother, to the land of Seir in the field of Edom, or it says here the country of Edom? Who are these malachim? Are they the angels of God or are these messengers? Okay. 5. Vayetzav otam lemor, ko tomrun la'adoni le'esav, ko amar avdecha Yaakov, im lavan garti va'echar ad ata. And he commanded them, saying, this is what you should say to my master, to Esau. This is what your servant Jacob said, quote, I have lived with Lavan, and that is why I have been delayed until now. Now, why would he say this to Esau with these messengers? Because the last time he encountered Esau, it didn't sound like they were looking forward to seeing each other again. Esau wanted to kill Jacob for Jacob having taken the better blessing from their father Isaac and leaving Esau with the dregs of a blessing. So that got Esau afraid and caused Jacob to run away. Why 20 years later is he thinking that he has to explain himself for why he's delayed in coming home? Did they leave it in such a way that perhaps Jacob just understood that Esau is blowing off steam? He's just saying he's angry, but doesn't really mean it. And this is just the nature of their relationship. And so he has to apologize for running away. We don't know. Torah here is being cryptic. Now, it's interesting. Below the line, brings a comment that takes it totally in a different direction. I stayed with Laban, the commentary says on the right side below the line. The letters of the Hebrew word garti, that is, I stayed with, I lived with, are the same as those of Taryag, with a numerical value of 613. So when we say there are 613 commandments, traditionally we call it Taryag mitzvot. So each Hebrew letter has a numerical equivalent. So kind of like Roman numerals. If we were to spell out 613 with letters, we would do it. The letter Tuf is 400, the letter Resh is 200, and then the letter Yud is 10, the letter Gimel is 3. So 400, 210, 3 adds up to 613. It's just a rearranging of Garti. Recalling the 613 commandments of the Torah, this prompted Rashi to interpret Jacob's words to mean, I stayed with Laban, but maintained my integrity. I was not corrupted by him. Okay, so just another example of how the rabbis try to prove and go and bend over backwards to show how good a person Jacob is. But it doesn't get to the psychology that I was trying to get to, which is, what's going on here? Why did Jacob feel the need to have to explain to his brother why he's delaying in coming home? Okay, so we'll just leave that there because there's no answer to that. 6. Vayehili shor v'chamor, son ve'eved v'shivcha, ve'eshlecha lahagid la'adoni limtsochen be'enecha. And I've acquired oxen, donkeys, sheep, servants, male servants and female servants, and I have sent to you to tell my master, my Lord, to find favor in your eyes. Right? So he's sending these messengers, angels, people, to tell Esau that he's sorry for delaying, and here's a gift of these animals and people to find favor in his eyes, to assuage whatever feelings Jacob is feeling, assuaging any guilt that he's feeling, or perhaps making Esau's anger that he might still have 20 years later, make the anger go away. 7. Vayashuvu hamalachim el Yaakov lemor, banu el achicha el Esav, v'gam holech likratcha v'arba ma'ot ish imo. So the messengers, the angels, came back. Who knows how long it took? They came back to Jacob saying, we came to your brother, to Esau, and he's coming to meet you. And he has 400 people. He has 400 men with him. So 400 men with him usually would mean, in context, armed men. So he has a brigade with him, which perhaps we're supposed to understand is meant to instill fear in Jacob. Or perhaps this is the way Esau travels. He always travels with a guard of 400 men, but certainly sounds intimidating. 8. Vayira Yaakov me'od, vayetzer lo, vayachatz et ha'am asher ito, ve'et hatzon ve'et habakar v'hagamalim lishnei machanot. Jacob became very afraid, vayetzer lo. So it says here, in his anxiety. Now see, the English translation is deceptive here. They start a new part of the sentence with the in his anxiety. But in the Hebrew, the in his anxiety is really the end of the phrase, not the beginning of a new phrase. So it should be, as it says below, he was frightened and upset, the very last line of the below the line commentary. So it should be Jacob was very afraid and he became upset. Okay, or he became anxious or stressed out or tense. Vayetzer, it's the upset is a mental state. Okay, because Yetzer hara is the evil inclination. Yetzer hatov, the good inclination. So it's an inner kind of drive or feeling. So vayetzer lo means more that he became upset. So Jacob became afraid, very afraid, and became upset. And he split the people that was with him into two. That's how I would translate vayachatz. He divided. Yachatz more. The word chetzi is half. So yachatz would be better translated, like one of the parts of the Seder is, the 14 parts of the Seder, Kadesh Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. Okay, what do you do at Yachatz at the Seder? You split the matzah, and you're supposed to take part of it to become the afikomen, right? So that's the same word, Yachatz, to split. Okay, so, and not necessarily in half equivalent halves. One part is supposed to be a little bit bigger than the other. So he split the people with him and the flocks and the cattle and the camels to two camps. So the response to hearing the message from these malachim that he had sent ahead, and reported back that Esau is approaching with 400 armed men, is that Jacob splits his retinue into two. 9. Vayomer im yavo Esav el hamachaneh ha'achat vehikahu v'haya hamachaneh hanishar lifleta. So why did he divide the camp into two? He said, if Esau comes to one of the camps and smites it or attacks it, then the other remaining camp will remain as refuge or escape. They can escape or they can be a refuge. Okay, so splitting, so he is afraid of Esau attacking, and this is his preemptive measure, dividing his retinue into two parts. 10. Vayomer Yaakov. So Jacob said, Elohei Avi Avraham, the God of my father Abraham, the Elohei Avi Yitzchak, and the God of my father Isaac, Adonai, God, Haomer Elai, Shuv la'artzecha ulemoladetecha ve'etiva amach. God, the one who said to me, return to your land and your homeland, your birthplace, and I will make it good for you. Katonti mikol hachasadim umikol ha'emet asher asita et avdecha. I am humbled. I am made small. I am humbled from all the compassionate acts and from all the truth. So it says here, I am unworthy of the kindness that you have steadfastly shown your servant. And so I'm translating more literally. I have been made small or unworthy. I'm humbled from all the kindness and from all the truth that you did for your servant. Kivimakli avarti et hayarden hazeh, because I crossed this Jordan River with my staff. Ve'ata hayiti lishnei machanot, and now I have so much, like I came alone just with my walking stick when I first crossed the Jordan. Now I'm crossing the Jordan with two camps full of a household. Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Save me from the hand of my brother, the hand of Esau. Ki arei anochi oto, because I am afraid of him. Pen yavo v'hikani aim albanim, I'm afraid of him, lest he comes and attacks mother and children. V'ata amarta, and you said, Jacob continues in this prayer to God, Heitev etivimach, I will make it good for you. V'samti et zar'acha kechol hayam asher lo yisafer merov. And I will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, who cannot be counted because there's so many. So if that's the blessing that you promised, God, why is it that Esau's coming to attack me? Please protect me. I am humbled from all the things that you have done, but just remember the rest of the blessing that you gave, and now Esau's threatening the rest of that blessing. So does God answer? There's no answer. It goes on in verse 14. There's no answer unless the answer is how Jacob is responding. Okay, so he's beseeching God. We don't hear a verbal response. In other places in the Torah so far, there has been a verbal response. No verbal response here. Vayalan sham balayla hahu. And Jacob slept there that night. Vayikach min haba biado mincha le'esav achiv. And he took from whatever was near as a gift for Esau, his brother. So maybe he says he's going to sleep on it and arrange a gift to give to Esau. Even though he's coming with 400 armed men, perhaps this gift that he's arranging will prevent the attack. Izim matayim utiashim esrim, rechelim matayim ve'elim esrim. So 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams. Gimalim menikot uvenehem shloshim. So he has 30 milk camels with their children, their colts, it says. Parot arba'im ufarim asara, 40 cows and 10 bulls. Atanot esrim, 20 female donkeys. Ve'ayarim asara, and 10 male donkeys. Vayitain biyad avadav eder levado. Each of these flocks he gave to his servants separately by animal. Vayomer el avadav ivru lefanai verevach tasimu bein eder uvein eder. Go before me and make enough space between each of the flocks. So whoever's watching will see that they're coming separately, and maybe it'll seem more impressive to divide it up in this way. 18. Vayetzav et harishon lemor, ki ifgashecha esav achi, ushe'elcha lemor lemi ata va'ana telech, ulemi elech lefanecha. So he commanded the first one, that would be the one in charge, because you'll see Esau first. He commanded the first one, saying, when Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you who do you belong to and where you're going, and who are these before you, the Amarta, and say, La'avdacha Yaakov, minchahi, shlucha la'adoni le'esav, v'hine gamhu acharenu. So you should say that everything belongs to your servant Jacob. It's a gift sent to my master Esav, and he's coming right behind us. Vayetzav gamet sheni, gamet shlishi, gamet kol hacholchim acharei ha'adarim lemor, kadavar hazeh tedamrun el Esav b'motzaachem oto. And he commanded the same thing of the second group and the third group and all those who are going after the flocks, saying, this is what you should say to Esau when you find him. So it's not just the first group, everybody is commanded to say the same thing, that they all belong to Esau, your servant, to Jacob, your servant, and they are a gift to Esau. Va'amartem gam hine avdacha Yaakov acharenu, and say also, here's your servant Jacob after us. Ki amar achapra fanav bamincha haholechet lefanai va'acharechen fanav ulai yisa panai. So, and you should say also, here's your servant Jacob behind us, because he said, because I said, because he said, I will atone for myself with this gift that's gone before me, and afterward I'll see him. Maybe he'll forgive me, or he'll show me favor. So Jacob clearly is, by doing this, seeing this as the atonement for his behavior to Esau before, or his atonement for something that Jacob is worried about in meeting Esau and what Esau is thinking about him. 22, Va'ata'avor hamincha al panav v'hulan balayla hahu b'machaneh. So the gift went before him, and he slept that night in the machaneh, in the camp. Is it the same camp from the end of Vayetze? We don't know. So Vayakom balayla hahu. Okay, we're getting there to the quarrel now. Vayakom balayla hahu. He got up that night. Vayikach et shtei nashav ve'et shtei shivchotav ve'et achadasar yeladav vayavur et ma'avar yabok. So he got up that night. He took his 2 wives, his 2 maid servants or 2 concubines, and his 11 children, and he crossed the Yabok, the Yabok crossing, or the ford of the Yabok. Vayikachem, Vayavireim et hanachal. He took them and he crossed the stream. Vayaver et asher lo, and he sent across all that he had. So he had everybody go ahead. 25, Vayivater Yaakov levado, and Yaakov was left by himself. Vayeavek ish imo ad alot hashachar, and a man wrestled with him until dawn rose, until the rise of the dawn, or the rise of the sun, or until sunrise, So it's not an angel, it's not malach, it's not ish Elohim, it's ish. So that this is something to think about. At the end of Vayetze, Jacob sees malachei Elohim. Jacob sees angels of God. Here he is wrestling with a man. So, is this an angel? We think it's an angel just from the context of the story. And for that to work, the word ish and malach have to be interchangeable. But we have to ask, if the Torah used at the start of chapter 32, which was the end of last week's portion, specifically malachei Elohim, angels of God, why does it use the word ish here and not malachim? Now, the beginning of the portion Vayera, in which angels came to visit Abraham, right? We're told on page 99 that Abraham is sitting at the entrance to his tent at the heat of the day, and he opened his eyes and sees 3 men approaching. Shlosha anashim are standing before him. Okay, now we know from the context of the story that those are angels of God in human form. So I'm just saying that it's confusing to the reader. If they're angels, why not doesn't the Torah specifically call them angels? If they're men, then uh, why, why, how do we understand it that they're referred to as men? Clearly, they have human form. And what is Jacob then? Okay, so that's number one, just about the confusion of how they are referred to. So if this one here on 201, verse 25, is an angel, why is it called an Ish? Okay, now and again, I just wanted to point out that there's precedent for an angel to be called an Ish, or the plural of angels to be called Anashim. Okay, so it's perspective. Abraham might not recognize right away that these men standing before him are angels, but perhaps only later does he perceive it that way. The same here. He's wrestling with this man. Why is he wrestling with a man? Where did this man come from? And why is it such that he's wrestling with this man? Okay, so in other words, we would imagine a better written story would explain who this man was and why the encounter leads to wrestling with this guy. All right, it's not a usual encounter that we have with a stranger, right? You approach someone coming out of a restaurant on the street or in a parking lot. You're not going to usually enter into a wrestling match with that person unless that person perhaps threatens you in some way with a weapon. And even then, if the person threatens you with a weapon, unless you're trained in martial arts or some other means of self-defense, you're not going to be wrestling with somebody. You're going to be running away, or you're going to be surrendering, or you're going to be taking out your cell phone to call the police. So I'm just saying, what is this struggle? What is this wrestling match going on? Why is this wrestling match happening? And what does this mean in terms of this encounter with an angel? It's the only encounter with an angel, I think, in the entire Bible in which it takes on this competition, this physical encounter. There are encounters in which the angel appears before somebody. Abraham with the three angels at the tent. The angel that stops Abraham from bringing the knife down on Isaac, but is that a physical touch? Did the angel reach down and grab Abraham's hand? I don't think it says that at the end of VaYishlach. Let me just look quickly just to see in that portion. Just a second. Right, it doesn't say, he doesn't grab his hand. He just says, don't do it. So there hasn't been a physical encounter between an angel and a person. This is a physical encounter. Why? So let's keep that in mind. 26. Vayar kilo yacholo vayiga bechaf yerecho vateka kaf yerach Yaakov beheavko imo. And he saw that he wasn't able to win, to have the advantage, that he's not winning this wrestling match. And he was injured in the bechaf yerech. So it says the socket of his hip. It's unclear. It's unclear what that is. So the above the line says this is the cup-shaped socket in the hip bone that receives the head of the thigh bone. Is that exactly what it is? It's the palm of the thigh. What's the palm of the thigh? So it could be the back part of the thigh. It could be the area where behind the knee, where the bottom part of the leg meets the top part of the leg, right? That could be the kaf yerech. It's more likely that that's the case. In wrestling, you try to get an advantage in wrestling, you grab for the leg. Are you grabbing for the hip? And that's what it could be grabbing the hip. It could be grabbing the knee. Don't know. But so the kaf yerech, whatever part this is, the hip socket, the back of the knee, back of the leg, was injured in struggling with him. 27. Vayomer shalcheni, and he said, "Let me go, ki alah hashachar, because the sun is rising. Vayomer lo ashalechacha ki im berachtani." And he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So who's talking to who? So it seems, if it's an angel, perhaps the angel is saying, "Let me go before sunrise," kind of like a Count Dracula thing. Sunrise, and then Count Dracula loses all his power. So is this the kind of angelic being, or like Cinderella, and the everything goes back to normal at midnight? You got to get into that fantastical carriage and get back home before everything poof disappears. So is this what happens at sunrise to this angel? He has to go, and Jacob's not letting him go until he gets a blessing. 28. Vayomer elav ma shemecha, vayomer Yaakov. And he said to him, "What's your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Vayomer lo Yaakov ya'amer od shimcha, ki im Yisrael, ki sarita im Elohim, ve'im anashim vatuchal. And he said, "Jacob will not be your name anymore. Rather, it will be Israel, because you fought with God. You have striven with beings divine." No, you have fought with God and with people, and you you prevailed. But he didn't prevail. And so in 26, it says he did not prevail. And here the angel, this person, this man is saying, you did prevail. You fought with God and with people, and you prevailed. So because this person, this being that Jacob is wrestling with, says to him, you fought with God, or beings divine, that's why here we have to understand that it is an angel. So how did he prevail? Jacob, it said that he was not prevailing, and he was injured. So this angel says, you have prevailed, and here's your new name. 30. Vayishal Yaakov vayomer Hagida na shemecha vayomer lama zeh tishal lishmi vayevarech oto sham. And Jacob asked and said, please tell me your name. And he said, why are you asking my name? And he blessed him there. And then the aliyah ends, but the story doesn't end. Vayikra Yaakov Shem Hamakom Peniel. Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. Ki ra'iti Elohim panim el panim vatinatzel nafshi. Because I have seen God face to face. Peniel, face of God. I have seen God face to face, and my soul survived. So that's a whole other thing. In the book of Exodus, God says to Moses, no one can see my face, panim el panim. No one can be in front of me face to face. That's why God put Moses behind the cleft of the rock. So Moses is not allowed to see God face to face. And in fact, God says no one is allowed to see God face to face. But here Jacob is saying, I have seen God face to face. So we have to keep this panim el panim in mind, right? It's all one book of the Torah. So when we get to Exodus 32, we have to remember Genesis 32 about this face to face, or Exodus 34. Okay, 32. Vayizrach lo hashemesh ka'asher avar et Penuel. The sun rose when he passed Penuel, Vehut Solea al Yerecho, and he's limping on his leg, or on his hip, or on his thigh. Al Kain lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael egid hanasheh. Therefore, the people of Israel will not eat. So now, we're not called the people of Israel until Exodus. The only children of Israel would be right here. Because Israel's the first time he has this name. So the only children of Israel would be the 11 children that are referred to here. So here's a parenthetical note. Therefore, so Jacob comes out of this limping. Therefore, verse 33, the people of Israel don't eat the thigh muscle, gid hanasheh. Okay, the thigh muscle. Right. So Jewish tradition identifies this term, gid hanasheh, with the sciatic nerve. All right. So gid hanasheh, it's unclear how to translate it. We understand it to be the sciatic nerve, right? Which is why you can't find kosher filet mignon unless you're in Israel. Sephardic trained Jewish butchers and slaughterers are trained in removing the sciatic nerve. So in Israel, you can find Sephardic certified kosher filet mignon, but you will not find it in stores here because Ashkenazi shochtim, Ashkenazi slaughterers are not trained in removing the sciatic nerve. Okay, gets to a whole other question. Therefore, the children of Israel do not eat the sciatic nerve, which is in the kaf hayarech, whether it's the hip socket, behind the thigh, whatever, ad hayom hazeh, until this day, ki naga b'chaf yerech Yaakov begid hanasheh, because the hip socket, or as this is translating, was injured at the sciatic or at the thigh muscle or at the sciatic nerve. Okay, so in the time we have left, what is this story about? Is this story supposed to come to teach us why we as Jews do not eat one particular part of the four-legged animal known as the sciatic nerve? Is that what this story is coming to teach us? Well, it seems that way since the story is ending there. But this is a bizarre ending because, first of all, we don't know that there's a people of Israel yet. We don't know there's a people of Israel yet. We have a promise, but we haven't gotten to Exodus yet. So yeah, if we see the entire Torah as one full story, it's kind of weird for the editor of that entire Torah to put this legal phrasing, this legal lesson here, when no law has been given to the people of Israel other than be fruitful and multiply and circumcise your sons on the 8th day. Those are the two laws that were given, but they were given to the families of individuals in the story. There hasn't been a people of Israel created yet. But in this story, we get the name. Why is Israel called Israel? Because of fighting, struggling with God. Okay, so that's what Israel means. But then what is this struggling all about? Is this all a dream about Jacob being anxious, extremely anxious about meeting his brother, his twin brother? And that the struggling with this being is a dream about struggling with his brother. Who's going to prevail? Certainly, a psychological reading of this text could be that this is all acting out his anxiety, right? So the more stressed we are in life, the more likely it is that we're going to have a stress dream, right? So people who kick in their sleep, punch in their sleep, call out in their sleep, are usually reacting to some kind of stress. And the marvel of the human brain is that it has this mechanism in it to be able to help us deal with our anxiety in that way. It's kind of a built-in kind of reboot. Like if we imagine the brain as the hard drive of a computer, there are ways on the hard drive, there are software features or devices within the computer that you can tell the computer to do to clean out the hard drive to make it work better, right? If the computer is working kind of slow, especially a PC, there are mechanisms, tools to clean out the hard drive. So perhaps dreams are that mechanism for human beings to clean out our mind, to be able to function better when we wake up, rather than dealing with an overwhelming source of stress. So clearly, Jacob is stressed about meeting his brother. He goes to great lengths to ensure that his brother knows that he's coming, and that everything that is coming before him, these different groups of animals and people, are all a gift for him. So that's one thing that he has to do, but he's still stressing about it. And here he has this wrestling match. So is it a dream that he's having? Is it an actual wrestling match? If it's a dream, certainly if he's kicking in his dream, he could have injured himself in his dream as well, waking up limping. Okay, so thoughts or comments about this in a little bit of time we have left. And as you're thinking about a thought or a comment, just think, I just want to highlight the idea that this is more than meets the eye in terms of this text. Is it a dream? Is it something that's happening to Jacob really in real life? Or is this a story that's put here that that highlights who we are as a Jewish people, that we are born in struggle with another people, right? That could be a lesson behind this as well. No matter when this story was written, the story of the people of Israel is struggle, right? We're never allowed to live free. We are always at the mercy of somebody else. And our 4,000 years of history is how we have prevailed over these overwhelming odds of and persecution and oppression. And yet we wake up limping, but we're still alive today. So that's another layer of the story too. Thoughts or comments, questions? So, okay, so a lot to think about with this story. And I think, you know, certainly what's going on in Israel and the war with Hamas can certainly see we wake up from October 7th limping, but we're still alive. And the prayer is that that we will prevail, and we'll see a better day. All right, so have a good rest of the day, everybody, and prayers for peace in Israel. And we'll see you again next Wednesday for another Torah study class.
Johnny, Yasha Kol.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good